I've been told to talk quite loudly and project myself, so can you all hear me okay? And if you see my glasses going up and down, it's because these are only good for short-sightedness, and I'll probably be getting lost. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. My name's Jez, the CEO and co-founder of Eden Smith. Just to give you a bit of an idea of who we are, just at a glance. So we're a boutique consultancy. My background is in recruiting. Data talent and tech talent since 1997. Our company today has evolved somewhat over the last 10 years, so now we offer quite a lot of consulting services, and that contributes to about 60% of the group revenue of our business, as well as running an education program to basically help the next generation of talent become workforce ready. Our mission is to do this through being very innovative, as inclusive as we can, and we'll drive value through some excellent thought leadership, which is what we provide to the market today. So what I wanted to talk about today is all around how talent strategy is becoming business critical. We've always in the past, or I've always in the past, talked more about the labour market and what skills people should be learning. But actually what I'm seeing at the moment is an awful lot of change, and I'm sure you can see that out there in the theatre or at the event. As a quick one, I've just come back from a Norfolk Broads visit for 3 days. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, but it's probably one of the most peaceful places you could ever be. And on reflection, I probably would have booked that a bit before this event. So yesterday morning, I woke up in the most peaceful place ever. And in the moment I started the trip home, I started to realise that I was going to have to stand up in front of you guys and do this presentation, and the anxiety and the nerves started to fill me up. And I went through a bit of a very, very interesting change curve. And that's one of the things I'm going to speak about this morning, because there was quite a lot experienced, and I think that most people will resonate with that as we move forward. So discussion points today for me will be, how do we build the teams that can challenge change fatigue? Planning the workforce for an AI-first future. Building data-centric talent ecosystems that we can hopefully scale, and how do we accelerate talent to impact? So how do we get the most out of our people as we go through this transformation with some kind of strategic alignment? So, change fatigue. It's a very, very real threat. We're going through transformations. We've seen it over the last 10 years, companies trying to go through some kind of data transformation. Now we have AI. It seems to always been very focused on technology change. I don't personally believe that that's right. All senior leaders are making decisions, very, very fast decisions, and AI are obviously learning at a rapid rate. People are trying to deploy it, and of course all of the individuals in an organisation start to become very, very resilient to that, and also start to feel very threatened about their jobs. I'm sure I'm not the only person that's thinking about what that is and how that feels. And actually, when we looked at the research, and this is from the Chartered Institute of Personal Development, only 34% of people said that companies were actually dealing with that very, very well. And so they obviously felt threatened, and they don't feel like they're being managed. And if we look at the way that ants work, they're probably the most celebrated team players. You know, they like routine. They know exactly what their job is, the right place, the right time, with the right skills. They know what they're supposed to do. And we're very much like that as humans. And the moment you get disruption in that, we start to break down. So we start to pull back, we start to get feared, and behaviours and mindsets typically change. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the market at the moment. And the impact of that is obviously reduced productivity, engagement, motivation, get high levels of sickness. People start to get stressed, and then they lose their sense of belonging in your business. Increased stress and burnout, and a big resistance to change, and an increased turnover of staff, which from a talent strategy perspective makes things like succession plans almost impossible. And what we're hearing is that actually the younger workforce are those that are most resilient to change, and yet the older generation in the workforce, they're wise to it, and they can offer a lot of advice to the younger workforce, and we start to need to try and bring that together. That's where we're coming from. So, you know, we need to build a proper platform, some kind of proper foundation and a scaffold for learning as we move forward, as we go through this scale, because the way I look at it, having been here for the last 10 years with data technology and new platforms and technology, with AI, it's going at a much faster exponential rate. and it will be the people that will be affected by that. And this is a big statement. We know there's no start and end point to this. I mean, how many times have we been on a change program that everybody keeps talking about change and it never seems to go away? It's because it doesn't start and have an end point. It's constant. So how do we get over that change fatigue? Well, the first thing is to stop, I would say, get over the emotional load, meaning that we don't start to talk about it like it's a problem. So if we see someone that's struggling with change, we don't say that they're incompetent or that they can't do the job or they can't deal with it. So we still have conversations from leadership down to make sure that this is just an everyday thing that we're all going through together. We co-create. So the things that we are trying to change in an organisation at the beginning, we start to get everybody involved in that from the initial outset, so that you don't feel like this is something that's happened to you. You feel like it's something that you're part of, and therefore the impact of that isn't as hard. Celebrate the small wins. We often celebrate when the job is done, and we go out and celebrate when the project has been delivered, or whether that we feel like that transformation's taken place, rather than celebrating in smaller groups of people on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and therefore people feel like they're progressing through that change. Reduce the noise, so start to talk about it like it's a natural thing, communicate it much more regularly and with clarity, and keep the learning rather than this going on training courses. And we talked about this a lot last time I was here, which was how we train people, typically through things like gamification rather than online courses and big PowerPoint presentations like this. Not many people learn that much from that. So if we actually start to get in smaller teams of people and make the learning a much more, like a daily thing and not so much of an episode that happens once every quarter, we'll find that people then start to feel a bit more included in what's going on. And those that thrive in transformation, they're not always the smartest. What we're seeing is they're the most diverse, and they're the ones that are really well supported. So those businesses, and even as job seekers that you see in the market, how you're interacting with others through big periods of change. It's not just the smartest people that are those that are easy to get through that. It's those that are supported. Some of the skills to navigate that. Statistics come from a lot of places. Obviously, there was some AI used to do some research. I'm not going to say there wasn't. But it's what you pull out of that research and you understanding where they come from. And we use multiple different sources of information. But the age group between 25 and 34, they've got a real big concern over the impact of AI and the jobs that they might have and how they're going to be impacted as a result of new technologies being implemented. But if you look at the broader workforce, basically 80% of the public are generally concerned about what's going to happen in the job market. So therefore, training is definitely a must. We've been talking about this a lot in our own business. There are certain people in my company that are very, very good and understand what AI can and can't do. But there's also a lot of people in the business that don't have any idea what it can do. And they're the ones that we feel are probably in fear the most. And if we look at general AI literacy, it has to be a broad initiative across the whole organisation, so that everybody starts to understand what's happening throughout a certain transformation. And a lot of it happens with automation. So if you're only going to automate entry-level roles, then you would understand why 62% of that demographic of 25 to 34-year-olds are going to be really worried, because they're the ones at the moment that are being educated in certain technology, learning AI, thinking they're going to get a career, and then all of a sudden, as someone learning to be an analyst, start to understand, well, actually AI can do quite a lot of analysis. And by the time I've qualified to become an analyst, will I still have a job? So you kind of get an idea as to why they're worried. And that resistance to the change, it's not about incompetence, it's about pretty much getting exhausted from hearing about all of this stuff. When I turned up this morning and I walked around, which I do every single time we come here, I can't believe it that there's 250 exhibitors out there, and every single one of them's got AI at the end of its name. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, actually, what are they all doing? How many of those over the next 6 months to 2 years would have either merged, still be in business, not be in business, or been acquired by another business? So we really don't have an understanding of what it's going to look like in 2 years right now. But what we do know is that there's a lot of people worried about it. So what we need to think about is safety. How do we build that into our businesses? Futures core digital literacy skills. I always talk about, normally when I'm here, this is salary bandings for these functions that support data transformation. And actually, from the research that we're doing, and we're speaking to customers every day and people every day, these are what, as we approach to 2030, are some of the skills we believe people should be learning as a job seeker. Definitely be very good with, or start to learn how to prompt AI and prompt engineering and how to interact with it. Will give you a bit of a head start if you're looking at a new career. How to think critically, critical thinking and understanding bias and evaluation from the results that you get from some AI output. How to be creative with it, how to innovate with it.
That's smart.
Understanding ethical reasoning around that and the rights. How to be a good problem solver in technical context and in general around business problems. How to be adaptable. Understanding that you should be going on a lifelong learning journey. Concentrating on interpersonal and cross-cultural collaboration. So, being very aware that when you go into an organisation in the future, that everybody's probably going to have a similar set of skills and they're going to be collaborating a lot to get the best results out of new technology and processes that will be implemented. And of course, data literacy, really understanding that the output of many of this AI has to be underpinned by good data quality, and understanding the importance of that. So I think they are some good pointers for job seekers and for businesses to start to plan what sort of skills they should be either training or where they should be upskilling, and also looking at the people that you have and understanding your actual workforce and where they might be very, very good, or certainly show signs that they have these skill sets to get ready for the future. So some of the recommended actions, and we tried to build this into some frameworks and split it out between employers and job seekers. At Eden Smith, we don't really talk about clients and candidates. It's a very, very old way of looking at staffing and recruitment and workforce planning. We see everybody as a person, and then we see businesses as businesses. And it just depends on what capacity you're at as a human being, where you're at. So for companies, we're saying, well, the talent strategy and leadership, we need to integrate AI into workforce planning. And invest in managerial AI literacy. So there's been a lot of talk of data literacy, and there still is, over many years. And we need to be doing that the same with AI. And then training the general workforce in AI literacy and make it a real-time relevant embedded initiative with empathy and creativity and being adaptable around that. And for job seekers, starting to understand AI tools across the whole workforce, learn the prompt engineering, how do you work with it properly, understand the ethics behind it, how to use it, exploring different tools that might support your particular function. For anybody that has dabbled with AI, and I have to a certain extent, but not that much, I do know that some tools work better than others for certain output. So have a play around with that, and then really concentrate on cultivating how adaptable you can be in the workplace. Being good with teamwork, because I think in the next generation, that's what it would all be about. A lot more teamwork and being creative about how you go about solving problems. Not being frightened to think in very, very critical scenarios. And looking at the skills that can be developed both in and out of the workplace, because a lot of this applies outside of the workplace as well as when you're in it. So all stakeholders in the business should be continually learning and embracing upskilling as we move forward, overstate qualifications, and use short, accessible formats to do that, to upskill yourselves. For anyone that knows, we run an internship program called the Nurture program, where we take MSc students and we place them with customers to work with live data. And it's very interesting that not a great deal of the students are ready for the modern workplace. So it's really important that we kind of look at this and basically embrace upskilling as an organisation. And if you need to build a resilient talent ecosystem, we have to think about looking beyond the job description. So where we've been recruiting for businesses for so long, there's certain functions that support data transformation, whether it be data management, governance, quality, policy, privacy, protection, architecture, engineering, advanced analytics, and now we have AI in the mix. Actually, if we go back to the power skills side of things around capability, looking at what capability a business has from the workforce, what the culture is like, is it supportive to your workforce, how do we progress them, and how do we collaborate as a business, that will build much more resilience for what we feel is coming. So you have staffing and you have consultancy. All companies work with the business that will come in to deliver some kind of expertise. All companies will definitely be recruiting their teams. There will be talent strategy, but what we need to do really is plug the gap. So we're trying to pull everything together. And there's lots of hybrid working models out there. There's lots of different ways that you can engage people to get projects done, different ways you can engage people to help develop their careers. But to make it a really, really resilient ecosystem, we have to now bring people to the center of it. So we've seen a lot of business models in the past where companies lay out a strategy and they talk about enablement and adoption, and that's got technology and people and culture and all this sort of stuff. And what we're doing, and we did over the last couple of years, we partnered with a big legal firm, and we helped them build a more people-centric business model. And it meant that we were concentrated just on the people and the processes and the purpose of why they were there and what they were trying to achieve. And then from that, we looked at what was the strategy. We had them included in building the strategy, included in how that was enabled and how it was adopted. So everybody was there at a much earlier stage of the transformation that company wanted to go on. So move people to the heart of your business model and your organisational design. It's not going to be a component of that now. That's how we see it. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not quite sure. And that's a bit more forward-looking in our view. And this is more of a bit of an ecosystem. And it's got to be designed intentionally using the people in your organisation. And it's not really just to be built for today to deal with this transformation. As I said, change is not got a start and end date. It's built for the long term. So shift from hiring skills to deliver X and start hiring for skills for the future that build actual capability. So you have on the ecosystem, the talent acquisition side of things, obviously how we acquire people, how do we upskill people, what is the culture like and how do we build that? That has a lot to do with onboarding, how quickly you can get people integrated into your culture, making sure that the leadership is robust, and there is a structure in place to support that. And make sure that the teams that we're hiring are blended. For anyone that doesn't know, some of the recent information I've read says that a lot of big consultancies are now moving from an 85% permanent workforce, which is what they have been for many years. It seems to have been the standard, and 15% of those people would be flexible workers or associates or contractors, and moving down from a 65% workforce that's permanent, and then using consultancies and contractors or flexible workers to plug the gap. So it makes them slightly more agile, but it also actually makes them a little bit more robust. So it becomes a bit more resilient. The permanent hires are there for, you have a strong talent pipeline, you've got some organisational stability, culture is good, they kind of build the foundations of the culture because they've been there permanent. You bring in contractors for specialist expertise, and it's in demand. You need it today, you need a project delivered. And then you should be getting consultancies in for more advisory and guidance to make sure the frameworks are there. But equally, they transfer the knowledge whilst they're there, so you're not left with that incumbent vendor costing you thousands and thousands for the next 5 years. So what does a resilient ecosystem look like. Instead of the three-legged chair, I've used gears. So your consultants kind of set up and fine-tune the gear system as it's running. Your contractors are the smaller gears, so if you need to accelerate quickly to get something done, that's how you use them. And in your permanent staff, the big gear that keeps everything running at a level speed, and that should give you a platform, I think, to run your business a little bit more robust way. Together, they're basically ensuring that you're not just capable, you're very adaptable. It should be something that you've built which is future ready, and there's a continuous learning wheel going on in the background. So how do we get the impact, and what does it look like? I don't think many people really understand many businesses really understand that the value is in the people. It seems to be that it's in the technology solution or the efficiency of how they can deliver their products. But as we move forward, when new technology and certainly AI starts to do a lot of that for us, it will be the people that are underpinning the success of that company and how you look after them. So therefore, we get the value loop, which starts with talent strategy, which obviously is underpinned by data strategy to give successful business outcomes. And this is where we should be investing. So we're assessing what we have, and then we activate that, and then we kind of amplify it and to make it bigger and better. There's a framework that kind of we've looked at. So we hire for potential, not hire for today. We hire for impact readiness as we go for transformation and really, really fast change. We get a more robust workforce. So we recruit with learning agility, people that are adaptable, that have power skills. Power skills I talked about last year, which were soft skills. Curiosity, creativity, being able to solve problems, not so much technology individuals. Compress the onboarding and integration. So when people come into your organisation, let's get them working on some stuff straight away, on some projects where they actually deliver impact. Let's get them into a coaching or mentoring program so they already start to embed culture much quicker than what they normally would. So we don't want to go through that 3-month, 6-month probation before someone is, perhaps ready to go to work for you, but they're already in there. And they've got some kind of structure with onboarding, maybe use sprints to do that. Upskill the flow of work, so integrating the learning into the projects that they've already started as they come into the business. And then they'll be much more able to adapt and then create a very, very fast feedback loop. So I think, overall the messages is like, let's condense a lot of that stuff. Let's get people learning the right things and let's get them up and running as quickly as we can to deal with this very, very fast curve of change. So some next steps, audit your data ecosystem and the talent that you have. Who's thriving? Who's maybe challenged? What's missing? It's a bit like general talent strategy where you look at capability and you might look at internal mobility and training, or you might train first and then move people into the right roles, doing the right things at the right time. Co-create the workforce plan, so build it together. Don't just look at it or get someone else to build it like L&D or HR. It's not just about those. It's actually we need to include other people in what workforce looks like for the future and get ahead of the skills. Stop hiring for functions. Address that human side of change. Start being a bit more empathetic about what the change is doing to the workforce and start getting a feedback loop into how people are feeling when the CTO announces that they're just about to drop in AI into your business unit. Really think about how those people are going to feel and see what you can do. Don't stretch them because otherwise they'll burn out. And we'll talk about that change fatigue and then your productivity will go down. And they're really the main 3 components. And I think I've done that in 25 minutes because there's only seemed to be 5 minutes for any questions. I hope it has made sense. We can go into a lot of this stuff in a lot more depth, but I hope there is a message that is landed that we need to change the way that we work to deal with this very, very fast transformation that we see coming over the next couple of years. So thank you very much. I am open to some questions if you've got some time. There is a microphone there. I'm happy to answer.
Hi, thanks for that. It was really interesting.
Thanks.
I am fully remote within my team. We're based all up around the UK and We only meet up maybe a couple times a year. I'm really interested in your perspective on how to deal with some of those action points that you mentioned, given that kind of new way of working. I know hybrid's more common, but the remote working does seem to be quite prevalent in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a remote organisation as well, and we've really not struggled, but we've certainly felt the impacts of not being able to onboard people into your organisation as quickly as you would like. Additionally, we've had people join the business who have left because culturally they're not aligned, and it's very, very hard for them to fit into the culture straight away. We have made some subtle changes about getting a remote working office and also giving some office allocation in certain areas where we've had staff so that they can collaborate a lot faster, but then getting some of the leadership involved in that much quicker than what you normally would. The problem is a lot of people, certainly when there's a remote working model, they're only interacting with 2 or 3 people in the organisation for the first 2 months. And that's where things do go wrong. So it's just about making more effort, and I honestly believe it's about investment in people right now, and that kind of underpins that message. But it's doing more of and making sure that people are together. We're running a lot more. As a really simple example is we run contractor drinks now, as a business, where the contractors that we have who are working really hard on projects never see each other, and we pull them together just to get to just to have a few drinks, and the feedback's unbelievable. It's like no one does this. And so we've all seemed to have forgotten how to, talk to each other. And I think where you've got AI tooling coming, it's not going to get any better. So we do need to do more of the face-to-face interaction to address some of those points. I haven't got a magic wand though, I'm afraid. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh no, we've got time. There's one there, but. No, I think we're done. I'm really sorry. I'm on a stand. I don't know what number stand are we on? 810. N. Oh, okay. But we're just around there. I'm happy to answer any questions here if anyone does anything. And thank you so much for coming. I really do appreciate you listening to me.